Welcome in, everybody, to the latest edition of Player Profiler Today, airing live on this fine Wednesday, June 19th. I am your host, Mike Lindberg, Senior Analyst for Player Profiler News Desk, and it's my pleasure to guide you through today's top stories and insights right here every Wednesday. So without further ado, let's dive straight into the action with our headline story. Let's start this show off with Bengals, Steelers, and Patriots. Oh my, identifying backfield sleepers in clouded running back rooms. All right, so we're going to start here with the Bengals, and they have a pretty clouded running back room right now to start the season. They have Zach Moss and Chase Brown vying for that top position, and now it looks like Cincinnati is poised to give Zach Moss a significant role this upcoming season, and here's why. His workload and efficiency in games where Jonathan Taylor was sidelined last year, Moss showcases potential as a workhorse back, averaging 20 carries and 3.2 targets per game while playing a substantial amount of playing time. He also ranked highly in efficiency metrics, demonstrating strong performance in yards over expected per attempt. He's a good fit with the Bengals. Moving to Cincinnati, Moss fits well schematically with the opportunity to thrive in an offensive system. This transition could elevate his production beyond his ADP of 29. So look for a guy that is going to be in a lot of scoring situations. He's expected to have a role in that offense. He is expected to split roughly 60-40 with Chase Brown. However, the Bengals head coach, Zach Taylor, has a history of favoring one bell cow approach, similar to how he manages, Joe Mixon's workload last year. The passing game concerns Brown's deficiency in pass protection could limit his playing time. So that could be a good thing for Zach Moss. He's a good pass protector compared to Chase Brown. He has fantasy upside with potential to a workload very similar to Joe Mixon's if he can, solidify himself as that workhorse back. His 2023 performance demonstrated his capabilities as a starter last year. Draft consideration, currently ranked as the RB 28th in fantasy drafts. Moss presents a compelling option for fantasy managers looking for a reliable early down back with touchdown potential in a very high-powered offense, mind you. In summary, Moss's combination of talent, opportunity, and favorable system and potential workload make him a standout candidate in fantasy drafts. He has shown the ability to produce when the chance and could be a steal in his current draft position given the expected role in this Bengals offense. Now, moving on to a guy, Chase Brown, who the Bengals is drawing attention as a top-tier handcuff option. Some people are actually really high on Chase Brown, thinking he could really solidify himself as the Bengals starting running back. His performance metrics, despite limited action last year, Brown showed efficiency with every touch. He ranked well within yards after contact and missed tackles forced per attempt, comparing to some of the other running backs. He had a late season breakout. Brown's involvement with that Bengals offense later in the season, over the final 6 games, he displayed a big potential ability. His 2024 role with Joe Mixon gone, Brown is expected to take on an expanded role over what he was doing last year, while Zach Moss will probably lead that backfield. Like I mentioned earlier, he has that handcuff appeal, and as backup to Moss, he could get the opportunity if Moss slips early in the season. He has significant upside, and if Moss gets injured, he could step into that role as that starter and become a very viable option in fantasy lineups. Draft strategy, he's ranked as RB 33 right now. Brown is a valuable late round pick. His dual threat abilities, anticipated increase in touches make him an appealing choice for fantasy football. And we're going to have to wait and see approach, seeing how this shakes up in training camp with these two guys and see how they roll there. Now, moving on to another backfield that's going to have some competition there, and we're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers, and there's some competition here between Najee Harris, Jaylen Warren. They're both very closely ranked in ADP, and we all know the struggles that Najee Harris had last year. So he faced challenges in 2023, initially struggling to rebound to achieve his third consecutive 1,000-yard rushing season, despite seeing touches with Jaylen Warren in a Pittsburgh Steelers offense that ranked low in points scored. Harris managed to maintain his productivity. Looking ahead, though, in 2024, significant changes are anticipated for the Steelers, primarily with the arrival of new quarterbacks Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at quarterback, and the addition of 3 offensive linemen in the draft. Things are looking up for the Steelers. Under new offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, who previously excelled in crafting successful rushing attacks with the Falcons and the Titans, the Steelers are expected to see an improved scoring opportunities in 2024, despite Pittsburgh's declining fifth-year option for Najee Harris. He is still only 26 years old. He enters a contract year and should be revitalized under a new environment. This could be a season where the Pittsburgh Steelers really, really lean on the run game and lean on Najee Harris in his last year with them potentially. So interesting. Looking forward, Harris remains a solid option, but the potential as an RB3 or flex player for fantasy purposes in 2024, depending on how the Steelers distribute the workload between him and Jaylen Warren, who we're going to get into in a little bit later on here in this session. The Steelers may continue to emphasize the run. Harris's role could be evolving, or it could be, evolving good or bad. We'll have to see what happens, because this Jaylen Warren is making a strong case as a fantasy football top pick over Najee Harris. And there's reasons why because of that. His explosive metrics and efficiency in 2023, Warren showcased top-tier efficiency metrics, ranking among the league leaders in explosive run rate, missed tackles, force per attempt, and also yards after contact per attempt. Important metrics that you should be looking at as running backs, and he hit on a lot of these metrics. And we all know talent will eventually win out, and situations are all fluctuating, and this situation is a fluctuation, and the Steelers could be in a position to move on from Najee next year, and Jaylen Warren could, with a good year this year, head right in to a workhorse role in 2025. His role and opportunity, despite sharing snaps with Najee last season, Warren still managed to deliver RB2 performances or better in the last half of his games. With a strong finish in the year and a defined role in Pittsburgh's evolving offense, Warren is set to see more opportunities in 2024, and it can be more than just a compliment to Najee Harris. He could outright take, the majority of those snaps in that high-powered potential offense that could be evolving for the Steelers. Fantasy draft value, Warren offers great value at his ADP, typically a steal in the 8th round of fantasy drafts. Given his explosive metrics and anticipated role, he stands out for me, especially in PPR leagues. He's got an advantage over Najee Harris because he's been more efficient. The expert consensus and upside potential. They give him a lot of situations where he could be a very big breakout in 2024. So Jaylen Warren's explosive playmaking ability, dual threat skills, anticipated role expansion, and favorable draft value make him a superior fantasy option, in my opinion, over Najee Harris in 2024. As Pittsburgh's offense evolves under new coaching and improved offensive line, Warren is well positioned to capitalize and emerge as a fantasy football standout worth targeting in fantasy drafts in 2024, and a guy you should have your hand on and eye on in dynasty leagues as well. Now let's get on to the Denver Broncos, and there's a situation there that I really like, diving into and delving into. We've heard a lot of rumblings about the situation with Javonte Williams. There's been reports of him potentially getting cut. They drafted two guys in the draft, one being a higher draft pick in Audric Estime, and then Blake Watson, an undrafted free agent there that they potentially could bring in as well. He's got a similar profile than Jaleel McLaughlin, who's already, established himself in that offense. So with Javonte Williams, considering, his situation, he could be an actual roster cut. It's been reported through Denver insider Cecil Lammey reported that the other day. So something to keep an eye on. His recovery from his knee injury has tempered his expectations, especially way back in 2023. His yards per carry and fantasy points fell short. While history suggests this could improve, there's still significant gambling in drafting Javonte Williams. Williams could be a sleeper pick after losing some buzz, but crucial factors to keep in mind here. We've heard rumblings that Jaleel McLaughlin is set to be, a sleeper gem in 2024, backed by strong stats and a growing role with the Broncos. But despite being drafted outside the top 45 running backs, McLaughlin made an immediate impact last year in his rookie year. He showcased great efficiency. Sean Payton's got praise for him, versatile as ever. He's being compared to as putting into that joker role, similar to how Reggie Bush and Alvin Kamara did in that offense. And we know how that turned out. McLaughlin has emerged as a key contender in that Broncos backfield, supported by his efficiency stats. Among running backs with at least 50 rush attempts and 20 targets, he is highly ranked at 14th in missed tackles forced per attempt at 5th, yards after contact at 4th, and yards per route run at 4th. Despite starting as only an RB3 last year, he's got a knack for making big plays. While questions linger about Javonte Williams, his recovery, we talked about that. McLaughlin is going to set to carve himself out a role, and a guy who is in another situation I'm keeping my eye out for, and that's Audric Estime. Because if Javonte Williams is really on the way out, we all know that Jaleel McLaughlin isn't, fit to be a workhorse running back. He is not that size, but you know who is? Audric Estime. And they drafted him. Sean Payton drafted him. He didn't draft Javonte Williams, and Audric Estime is a guy that, despite his slower 40-yard time, he brings an impressive efficiency and versatility to the Broncos with a dominant performance. Remember at Notre Dame where he showcased his running skills. He scored 18 touchdowns and he had over 1,300 yards rushing. We talked about this in the Player Profiler News primetime show the other night. I like Audric Estime, and I think that, down the line, it could be sneaky for these Broncos to go with the 1-2 punch of Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime. So just picture this, folks. That could be something that is brewing in the backfield if Javonte Williams stumbles with his opportunity. So a guy that you should be looking at in especially dynasty leagues. Estime's fantasy outlook may seem uncertain for the Broncos at this stage, but his all-around abilities make him a worthwhile late-round flyer and waiver wire target. So keep an eye out for Audric Estime. Another guy that should be on your radar too is a Blake Watson. He is a little bit older as a rookie. He is turning 25 this year in October, but he joins the Broncos with a diverse skill set, very similar to Jaleel McLaughlin. So if something were to happen to Jaleel, he could jump right into that role. While Watson faces challenges in transitioning to the NFL as a free agent, undrafted free agent, his college success and versatility make him somebody to keep your eye out for. I know a lot of sharp analysts had their eye on Blake Watson, and somebody to keep your eye out for there. So before we get going into some other of these backfields, it's time that we hear from the Podfather and what's going on in the FFPC and their spring promo. So let's hear from him.
Hey, why do we partner with the FFPC? Because they have the widest variety of fantasy football formats, and it's the easiest place to find all types of fantasy football contests in the world. What if you want to play for high stakes? Well, they have a $6 million prize pool with their Fantasy Players Championship. They also have way too early best ball leagues that start in February and dynasty leagues. They have the closest thing to a liquid market for orphans that there is in all of Dynasty. And the FFPC has sponsored us for half a decade because we are actually delivering information that can help fantasy gamers, and they're generating so much interest and bringing in so many new users, casual users even. The FFPC creates a unique experience where you can both compete against the best and make money. Use promo code UNDERWORLD to get $25 off your first team. $25 off your first team at the FFPC with promo code UNDERWORLD. Go get it!
Go get it. Thanks, Podfather, for that message from FFPC. Now let's move on to the Vikings and their backfield, and it is shaking up to be a very interesting one there. And some people think that Aaron Jones is going to jump in and solidify himself, walk right in, but we know age sometimes plays a factor, and with running backs, it could be a slope that once you hit it, it hits you hard. And that could have happened last year to Aaron Jones. So something to look out for. Time obviously inevitably catches up with everyone. And yet Aaron Jones determined to fend off some early season, doubts. And last year, Jones battled through tons of injuries until the latter part of the season. He showcased resilience and proving that he possesses the skills that make him a worthwhile fantasy investment for the upcoming campaign. During weeks 15 through 20, Jones averaged an impressive 21 touches and 120 yards per game last year, establishing himself as a constant performer among a group of 47 qualifying backs. He ranked 8th in explosive run rate as per fantasy points data. Despite his proven ability, Jones faces skepticism entering 2024 like he should. Currently drafted as RB16 on Underdog, he's consistently exceeded his ADP in 5 of the last 6 years, so finishing no lower than 27th, but that was last year. So last year, that could have been the wall that Aaron Jones hit. So I'm very apprehensive about Aaron Jones headed into 2024. He could have hit that wall. I know Coach O'Connell is really high on Aaron Jones, and he's used to, running a workhorse back. So we'll see what happens. And if that shakes out, that could be a very good situation for Aaron Jones. Some people say he's being undervalued relative to his potential, offering a considerable upside if given more of a substantial workload. Despite concerns of his age, he's 29, turning 30 in December. His injury history, his past performances, and the Vikings' offensive structure make him a compelling fantasy option. Fantasy managers should view him as a value pick currently at his ADP potentially. Not myself. I think he's more of a guy that could lose some structure, some touches to an emerging guy that we saw last year, and that's Ty Chandler. And he became a standout for the Vikings in 2023. He sees that lead back role late in the season with an impressive performance of 157 yards and a touchdown against the Bengals in Week 15. He started behind Alexander Madison and Cam Akers to start the year, but Chandler capitalized on his opportunities that created by injuries and performances, and that could happen again in 2024 with an injury to Aaron Jones. We know he hasn't stayed healthy lately with his age and stuff like that. Chandler could jump in again and lead the Vikings to success. Entering his 3rd NFL season, he is 26 years old, still has some tread left on the tires. There is concern about his age and the potential of adding Aaron Jones to the lineup. But despite this, with only Akers and Kenny Nwangwu as competition, Chandler has a clear path to significant playing time to handle a workload and produce when given the opportunity, and it makes him an enticing late round pick in 2024 drafts. I'd rather take the stab on a later guy like Ty Chandler and less be bitten like I was last year when I drafted some Aaron Jones. And I've got a feeling that might happen again this year in 2024 for Aaron Jones. It may not be a rosy season for him, but if it is, he's known with his metrics. He could be very, very profitable with that ADP if he ends up playing a full season. Next up, we're going to go to the Patriots because they got an addition there with, Antonio Gibson getting into that. But I'm really high on a bounce back year for Ramondre Stevenson. I think he might be a steal in 2024 fantasy drafts. He's poised to surpass his ADP of RB20, by a pretty good margin, in my opinion. Even if he shares a committee backfield, Stevenson becomes reasonable at that price, possibly even still a discount. However, what makes him truly intriguing is his potential to be a workhorse back and elevate him to a league-winning status. Remember, a couple of years ago, he was a leader, and people had him sought out as a top pick last year. I still think there's some tread left in the tires after that 2022 season where he dominated, just like McCaffrey did, 9 weeks as the main back. And in 2023, despite sharing duties with Elliott, Stevenson maintained a strong workload with that knee injury, including 5 games, of over 20 carries and 5 targets. It's a sign of his ceiling. Stevenson benefits from a favorable schedule this year. It's a second best playoff scenario schedule. This makes him a prime target in drafts and best ball drafts. While Stevenson in 2023 season, he didn't meet the expectations. There is a lot that's indicating that he could be a strong candidate for a bounce back in 2024, despite and considering his history of breaking into the top 12 fantasy backs in 2022. Stevenson has proven he can handle the workload. His versatility in the passing game adds value, especially in PPR leagues. And as the Patriots lean on Antonio Gibson for passing downs, Stevenson's role as a reliable, workhorse is secure. So I'm thinking after that disappointing 2023, his talent, his resurgence is coming. 2024 bounce back for Ramondre Stevenson. Now, what does that mean for Antonio Gibson, you say? Well, he is generating buzz and intrigue heading into this season. The New England Patriots, they're a team that is young. They're got a new quarterback, got a lot of new receivers, so they might be leaning a little bit more on the run game to establish themselves, to slow the game down for their rookie quarterback. He's got a decent contract and role. He signed a 3-year deal with the Patriots, structured in a way that essentially allows the team to reassess one after this year. He's got a playing style known for his explosiveness, his ability to force missed tackles. He offers a dynamic presence in both the running game and the passing game. As far as his fantasy outlook for fantasy football, Gibson is seen as a solid RB3 with some upside. He is, projected to play a decent role for the Patriots, sharing duties with Ramondre initially, but having the chance to take over the backfield, say if an injury happens, or if he could just be a little bit more efficient than Ramondre. So draft strategy and fantasy drafts, Gibson is seen as a late round flyer with upside, particularly in PPR leagues because of his catching upside. He's a dual threat capable running back with potential to see increased volume. It makes him an intriguing option around the 100-yard pick there. So let's take a look at another team here that has got some brand new faces in their lineup, and that is the Chargers. And Gus Edwards is set to make an impact for the Chargers under their new offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, who he excelled with in the past. So here's what we need to know about his fantasy prospects. Opportunity. Edwards joins the Chargers with a clear path to play significant playing time. His main competition for touches indicate that J.K. Dobbins, Kamani and Vidal, these are all unproven people that have either injury history or is a rookie. So he's in a prime opportunity to lead that backfield. He's got a ton of potential for touchdowns. He showcased his ability to find the end zone, 13 touchdowns last season. He's going to have a role in the offense. The Chargers are going to focus on improving their run game, and that suggests Edwards will see ample goal line and short yardage opportunities. This could translate into another season of impressive touchdown totals. Fantasy outlook, currently drafted as the RB43. Edwards presents a value as a flex option with potential for higher returns, especially in scoring formats where his knack for multiple rushing touchdowns in games can be advantageous. So in standard leagues, Gus Edwards is going to be a smash play if he could stay healthy and the Chargers use him in the red zone. There's concerns while he's been efficient, his role may be capped by his historical lack of involvement and has been, in the passing game. So he'll need to rely solely on rushing production and touchdowns to remain fantasy relevant. The draft strategy here, folks, is he's being ranked as at around the RB 36. Edwards is a viable target in drafts, seeing that the touchdown upside could be there, and the opportunity to exceed his ADP is well within the range of outcomes here. So let's get an eye on Gus Edwards, and another guy I want you all to be very, very focused on in training camp and in heading into this season, and that's Kamani Vidal, the rookie running back from the LA Chargers, is generating a significant amount of buzz, and for good reason, and here's why. He enters a very good situation, just like Gus Edwards, where he has a clear opportunity to make an impact early, competing against J.K. Dobbins with those two bum knees. I'm seeing Vidal. He has a clear path for a substantial role in a run-first offense. His college performance speaks for itself. He's a senior at Troy. He amassed an impressive stats, rushing for 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns, along with 18 receptions for 201 yards and a receiving touchdown. His ability to handle a heavy workload and contribute in rushing and receiving aspects bodes well for his transition to the NFL. He's got some fantasy upside here, folks, despite being a sixth-round pick. Vidal's talent and the Chargers' offensive strategy under Greg Roman suggests he could quickly become a flex play with the potential to evolve into a solid RB2 as the season progresses. Comparison attributes: he's known for his agility, his vision, his contact balance. People are comparing him to Isaiah Pacheco. Good comparison. When drafting him, fantasy managers who are eyeing Vidal in the third round in rookie drafts, I think that's a great spot for him. Get him in the later rounds and redraft. He's a guy that could easily jump into a role if an injury happens or if he proves himself in there. I love these backfields that are, clouded, because that's where the value is, folks. So in summary here, Vidal's combination of college production, favorable situation with the Chargers makes him a very compelling prospect. He's poised for expectations, and looking at this Chargers offense, looking probably pretty run heavy headed into this season. So look at Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal to be values. And there's going to be some values in all of these teams that I explained out there. So hopefully I've given you guys some advice, some pathway to, some clarity there, and just see my side of the spectrum here. We're going to move on to some headlines here, and two specific goals for Devon Achane has been this offseason is to get stronger and better, and I think that's happened. This offseason goals are clear. He aims to enhance his physical strength, endure NFL hits better, refine his route running and skills to improve his involvement in the passing game, and Coach McDaniel plans to innovate ways to utilize Devon Achane's dynamic abilities. He is prowess. He underscores exceptional talent, highlighted by historical efficiency metrics last year with a +6 in weighted opportunity, unmatched among running backs in the past decade. He's being compared to Alvin Kamara in his early years. And, you got to think about what the potential is here for Devon Achane. And it's looking pretty good. People are steaming him up. And if he can stay healthy, folks, watch out, because he could be a guy that is just ultra efficient with limited touches, and that could be what happened here for Devon Achane. And then a little bit more buzz going around the league, and Brandon Aiyuk said there was a potential move to the Washington Commanders to join his close friend Jaden Daniels would be seismic. Ray Lewis big. That would be huge. They don't want me back is the revelation that came from Brandon Aiyuk's TikTok. And Aiyuk has publicly expressed his desire to either secure a substantial contract from the 49ers or be traded to a team that can meet his financial expectations. This topic has dominated discussions throughout the offseason, but has recently been pushed aside from immediate attention. In a FaceTime video with former college teammate Jaden Daniels, We heard that Aiyuk revealed that the team didn't want him back. With potential roster challenges looming, the 49ers drafted Florida Gators wide receiver Ricky Pearsall in the first round to address their future needs. While Ayuk's primary focus remains securing a significant payday, the urgency for the 49ers may not align with meeting his demands this promptly in the offseason. Moving on to another situation that we should be looking at, and it's not a huge situation, but it's one to be looking at in the future, and that's Jared Wiley, who may turn out to be one of the biggest surprises in the 2024 NFL draft class for the Chiefs. He's already getting a lot of play with the starters, getting looks in the red zone, and he's good enough when the pads come on. He could quickly supplant Noah Gray and is slated to be a free agent in 2025. So Wiley has emerged as a potential standout from the 2024 draft class. He continues to impress, with Irv Smith in the lineup on that 1-year deal and Gray serving as a solid backup to Kelsey. Wiley's selection in the 4th round presents a valuable depth piece, and while he excels in speed and explosion, his blocking skills require refinement before he becomes a regular contributor. But somebody to keep your eye on, and somebody that is going to make the roster, in my opinion, and someone that could be the heir apparent to the Travis Kelce throne. So something in dynasty leagues that we're going to keep your eye on. And another throne that we are going to talk about within that Chiefs kingdom, and that is a prince. And that prince is Deneric Prince, and he seems to be the running back poised to sneak into the rotation. But watch out for Carson Steele, who also impressed during his opportunities in mandatory minicamp, leading me to believe that Louis Rees-Zammit is going to be mostly just a special teams guy to start the year if he can carve out a role there as a kick returner. The Chiefs are gearing up for an exciting competition at their running back position heading into the season. Deneric Prince, who flashed potential during his time on the practice squad in his limited appearances last year, is aiming to cement a role with the team. His combination of size and speed, Prince is eyeing a spot at the rotation to provide valuable depth with the established starters. Meanwhile, Carson Steele emerges as another intriguing process. He's known for his impressive college performance. I'm looking at him to kind of fill in a fullback style role with his size. And then, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Isaiah Pacheco are the two guys that you're going to be keeping your eye on, but they have some depth now in that locker room at the running back position, and Deneric Prince is solidifying himself as potentially that RB3 now role, with them letting Jerick McKinnon go. All right, folks, a couple more items here to get over before we head into here. We'll talk about Pat Freiermuth and then maybe get into some Blake Corum news, and then we'll let you guys go with the show here. So Pat Freiermuth is looking better and more consistent in the 4 weeks that he's been in, back in with the team. He's had an instant connection with Russell Wilson. So the Steelers tight end was on the verge of a breakout year in 2023 after an impressive rookie season where he had 7 touchdowns. He followed by a substantial 98 targets in 2022. Freiermuth appeared poised to elevate his game further. However, a combination of injuries, subpar quarterback play, led him to just 308 yards last year and 2 touchdowns, roughly half his projections from the year before. Now enters Russell Wilson, and he is presumed to be the quarterback 1 for the team, and his ability to connect with his receivers compared to last year's quarterbacks is going to be an important thing to look at with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Headed into the fantasy draft season, Freiermuth is a must-have across all formats. He is poised to meet and possibly exceed expectations. Andrew Cooper, he's got a threshold having him at around the 90 target range, and I think that's a tantalizing target range for Freiermuth if he can emerge there as the number 2 target in an offense that is on the up and up with the new quarterback regime there. Now, Blake Corum on the offensive side of the ball, Sean McVay is pleased with Blake Corum and what he's seen so far, and has actually said he's stood out. So off-season mandatory minicamps are now in full swing, and one rookie that continues to shine is Blake Corum. Amidst the learning curve of mastering the offense, Corum has displayed remarkable maturity, seizing every opportunity for reps while teammate Kyron Williams recovers from his injury. McVay spoke highly of Corum. Initially overlooked in fantasy circles, Corum's impressive work ethic and growing endorsements from coaches suggest he's carving out a significant role in the LA offense. This makes him a compelling option for both redraft leagues and valuable dynasty assets, offering savvy managers an opportunity to secure a potential steal in rookie drafts. But Corum is going to have a hard path to get there. We know that, Kyron Williams has been ultra efficient with his opportunity last year. I think that Sean McVay, from what I hear, is looking to not miss a step if they need to rest Kyron Williams for a play or two. They want to be able to go in there and not miss a step with the running back position. So that is what Blake Corum is here for. He could carve out a role in the future, but I think the job is Kyron Williams. I think he's going to lead the league, not lead the league, but lead the team for sure. 70-30 potentially. And if Corum can, prove himself or an injury happens, that's when Corum's value will skyrocket. So yeah, that is it for today on Player Profiler News today. We've come to an end of this episode. I'm your host, Grindberg, bringing you the freshest updates every Wednesday. Stick around as we continue to dive deep into the world of Player Profile. For exclusive content and ever more updates, follow me on X at FF Canuck. Find us on the NFL Player Profiler _news on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Remember tomorrow, Bradley Stalder is taking over, and he'll be the Thursday night slot. So mark your calendars for Bradley every Thursday. He's back. And thanks for hanging out with us today. From the entire team at Player Profiler, hope you have an absolutely epic evening. We'll see you next time.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.